688-1728.
Hello, viewers. Preparing to go on the air. Get my mind right, get my mind prepared. But we'll be starting pretty soon. We have a show prepared. Let's just say it's gonna be interesting. We got a show prepared. We're always last minute making adjustments, but that's what you pay experts for. So
he really is. And if you need somebody for residential and commercial, he does interior and exterior.
I always wonder, why do these things happen? I'm not trying to be on the camera. That's funny.
You good on small jobs. So those jobs that you may not be able to do, they're not a huge job. You just need somebody to get in there. He does plumbing, he does electrical work, he does painting, plastering, patching, window repair, and floor that needs to be repaired. So Johnny fixing his services.
I wish I had my little roadcaster. I would have been making some noises. Next week. That's what I guess.
Once again, that's 716-650-1126. Also,
so we want to encourage people to call in, right?
Yeah, if you're a viewer watching on live, today is going to be a show where the phone lines are more open. So we'd really appreciate if you could join the conversation. 716-837-1112. Again, that's 716-837-1112. Like I said, it's going to be an open phone line. So when I ask the question for the day and go through some of the information for the day, I just want us to think about that and know that this is the show. We want to hear your input. We want to hear what you have to say. It's not right or wrong. We just want to hear you participate because this is supposed to be a show that reflects the community's voice. And so we want to do that. But in order to do that, we need you guys to speak. So I'm going to repeat that on the air as well.
Okay.
To kind of just get people thinking the right mindset.
I know we're talking about 2024, but I think people should have been thinking about 2024 at the beginning of this quarter. We'll see how the conversation goes.
To receive your free copy, call 716-688-3882.
Power965radio.com. Locally, nationally, it's Conversation with Jim Anderson. And now, your host, Jim Anderson.
Good morning, Buffalo. Good morning, Buffalo. We might have to look at this intro song. It'd be a lot of weeks of Austin, but sadly today we don't have Jim in the studio. He's going to be gone for one more week. I'll tell you something. You know what you pay professionals for? I'm joined here by Latasha Martin, my mother, today. You know what you pay professionals for?
What do you pay professionals for?
Let me tell you what you don't pay a professional for, right? Anybody realistically could just sit in the cockpit of a subway car, right? It's only one lever, forward and back, right? But let me tell you what you pay a professional for. You pay that professional so that when that car starts to get a little front heavy or back heavy and things start to go wrong, how do they adjust? And so let me tell you today we had a guest prepared. I'm not going to lie, we had a guest prepared for most of the week, and until about 10 minutes ago, we thought we had a guest in studio, but today we don't. But you pay professionals because today we have a different show prepared in these 10 minutes that I think is going to be interesting and very informative. Today is an open phone line show. Let me tell you what I think that's so important. As a show, this show is supposed to reflect the community's voice, right? How the community feels and have a hand on the heartbeat of the community. In order to do that, we need to hear from the community.
True.
You need to speak. And so today I want viewers to listen and say, when I hear these people talking, I can join in the conversation. And we want to inspire you to, because this is the day we want to be hearing, discussing ideas, and really asking ourselves this one question. Are you ready for the question of the day? What are the changes that we want to see in Buffalo for 2024, right? We're coming up on the end of the year, right? You talk about New Year's resolutions, and there's a lot of spheres that have been moving. Last week, we talked about some of the political changes that we'll be seeing in the years to follow. We talk very often about the financial situation, the financial outlook of Buffalo, right? Prosperity, bringing prosperity to our neighborhoods, keeping money where it belongs, and allowing us to thrive, not just survive. Right, we also talk about the social mindset of Buffalo, right? Are we a city that's ready for change? And so my question to the listeners and to you as well is, What do we want to see? What changes politically, financially, socially do we want to see in our city for the year 2024 and beyond? And I have an answer myself, but I'm going to give you a chance to start to talk about your answer, and then I'll go ahead and get mine back if you don't get any callers in the meantime.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to get calls, because in 2024, I think what I would like to see is, in the context of this, first of all, Jim, thank you so much for trusting us to be the co-pilots this morning in your absence. And I hope that we see you soon. And we're excited about that. But we're excited about this conversation because I think one of the things that's talked about often in this booth is we want to invest in our youth. And they will say it with these strong promises, but it feels like, as a person sitting on the outside, because I call it, and I probably shouldn't call out names, a few years ago, I was working for a company and I met a celebrity and they had a book signing. They ran out of books and I said, oh my goodness, if I give you my information, I promised a market president, and this is an $80 billion company. I told a market president, I'll get you a copy of that book that's signed. So I was like following up. The person never responded back. So finally, by the luck of God, they wound up coming to Buffalo on a book tour. Had no idea. I went to that book tour only for one reason. I needed a signed copy of that book, because even though that person didn't honor their word, I wanted to honor mine. So let's fast forward to what we want to see in Buffalo 2024. A lot of people have made commitments to you. I'm going to be specific, to you, and have said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I thank God for a person like Jim Anderson in this booth, who has honored his word completely by trusting you here as a co-host and by doing all the things he can do. We want to thank Sheila Brown, the owner of the station, for trusting you as a young person to sit in the co-pilot seat. We want to thank all the DJs that support you, who have even followed up and said, you know what, people said they were promising you this, Austin, but they didn't follow through. So what I would love to see, since I don't sit in the role as momager, I can get a little on my honestly as a mom then, not a momager, is I would love to see in 2024, every person that you've met over the last year and a half in your gap year, honoring their commitment, from payment, from follow-up conversation, from meetings, and all those things, even the community leaders. Because it's one thing, it's easy to say, oh yeah, you're a bright young man, but it's a hard thing to honor your word. And that's one of the things that's made me successful in business, is honoring my word and honoring my commitment, no matter who that person is.
That's a succinct. I can't even argue with that. We have our guest joining us, but I'm going to give my answer real quick, because that's very similar on the veins that I see. I think I just want to see a city where people are willing to do unto others as they want done unto themselves. I think we have a very much a city where, you can hop right up. Yeah, we have very much a city where,
He can sit over there, yeah.
Okay, we have very much of a city where it feels like, sorry, we have a lot of things moving in the studio, but it feels like we have a city where everybody talks about what they want to see in the city, but a lot of people won't go out and do it. Right, we talked for many weeks about issues with the Bill Stadium regarding representation, right? And then we talked about they had a meeting and there wasn't a great turnout, right? We talked for weeks about some of the things we need to be worried about. We brought candidates to talk about the change we need to see in Buffalo, right? What we talk about, we want to see. But when it comes time for the polling or for people to go to the booths, now we have an issue with turnout. We have an issue with community representation in the voting booths. And so what I just want to see, kind of similar to what you're saying, but different, it's not necessarily even about honoring your word, but when you're walking down the street, when you're thinking about where is my role in the city, stop looking at ourselves as the receivers and start giving what you have to give. You may not have a lot, but for some people, what you have is surplus. And so give what you can give, because we are all at the table, whether you want to be or not, whether you're eating or not. If you're living in Buffalo, you're sitting here. And so when I look left and right, I ought to respect and do best for the people closest to me, because what happens when we don't is they keep continually separating the city. And now we have issues. We have a city against each other instead of a city united. And so when I think about the city of good neighbors, that comes down to what is a good neighbor. And to me, a good neighbor is not someone who just sits there and receives dishes from other neighbors. It's not someone who just is on the block, but it's someone who's doing more than they can, doing more or doing as much as they can to support others the way they want us to be supported. It's someone who's going to shovel your sidewalk so that you'll shovel theirs. It's someone who, just when you ask to buy a cup of sugar, is going to come over to buy a cup of flour, and there's no issue with those interactions, but it has to be both ways. And I feel like when we create a city that's focused on helping others and not so focused on just helping ourselves, it'll be a lot easier city to be successful in, but it'll also be a lot easier city to feel the love that we say that the city has. So that's my answer, is people just doing on the others as they want done onto themselves. But we have our guest joined today, and
What's
Mr. Murray
up?
Holman. We have a return
Alright.
show. How we doing this morning?
Oh man, I see you got your hair out. You know, I heard your mom on the air talking about the books and all that there, and people promising you things, and all of a sudden things go in a different direction. But God makes it happen. That I guess you got that book signed and got it right, Mom?
I sure did.
Yeah, you
I
sound
sure
so
did.
young on the air. I was like, that is mother for real. I mean, you know, what's up, Shy? We got the people in the neighborhood. What's going on, Buffalo? I'm here. I just left a meeting with Michael Chapman over at St. John's, and talking about the market now that is on the table. On the east side of Buffalo, they've been trying to go after this place for almost 13 years, and now that we made some noise and organizations made noise, here we are. We want to see what the next steps are. I remember when Honorable Darius Pridgeon took St. John's, and he was running for office, and he went in there with a sea of red. Some of these things we need to do when things are not going our way in our community. So the shakeup is a shakeup. We back for the shakeup on the Jim Anderson show, and I'm just coming in here just to get set up and roll back into your hand. But I like the hairstyle, brother. And I remember my hair was like that, but look at me now, I'm all bald headed. So we'll leave you sooner or later, but hopefully it don't. But what's going on?
It's all good. So today we had an open phone lines. We didn't know in your absence, but to get back to the show that we had planned a little in some semblance, but staying with the theme of the question of what changes do we want to see in Buffalo. Last week we talked about some political changes we're seeing in the city, right? Things that are going to play out almost like a game, right? We're seeing the moves being made in front of us. And so what we were trying to do was help us just be aware, right?
Yes.
Predict, right? Preemptive, be intentional, like we were talking about last week about chess moves. But this week we were talking about another thing that's happening in Buffalo, not so much in the political sphere, but we know everything is connected, right? We know we're still in the right mindset. We're talking about the 33 project, and so that is what is essentially what is going to be happening with the expressway, right?
I think Betty Jean Grant got some.
Yep, she does. There's a couple different ways that people want to go about it to address this issue. Some people want to completely revamp it. Some people want to fill it in. Some people just want to leave it as is. Some people want to get rid of it entirely. And so looking at the people's different mindsets and their kind of stances on it, could you give us an overview in your words of the project and just some of the different avenues people want to go to get it remedied?
Absolutely. First of all, folks, we should have been going to the meetings. They've been having meetings all over, from the Museum of Science to Delavan and Grider. I believe they had one over at the MZY. We missed the opportunity to be at those meetings to address how we feel about these issues about that 33 project. And so to the point right now, some people are pushing it down our throats. I hate to say it. I'm saying either take it or lose it. You know what I'm saying? And that money can't be allocated towards putting up new housing and things like that. The money's only designed for that project right there. Transportation has a lead in this here. And if we don't make the right decision, we're going to lose that funding and go in that direction. My mindset on either cover it up or make it into a tunnel or whatever they're trying to do, I needed more information. And that's how I feel our community needed more information. But if this would have been, say, for instance, going out towards Amherst and other places, I can see signs all up and down the strip saying no metro, none of that stuff there. Our community is not doing that. They're voicing their opinions, but it's silent. They're not putting up signage and saying we don't want this or we do want it. That's not happening in our community. Even what shot in the backdrop, his brother was a senator here, and man, he would go out and said, we don't have people that's in politics that's coming forward saying, yeah, right, let's do more studies. They are buying into this thing here and saying they're shoving it down our throats. And trust me, folks, y'all got to really look at that plan. Gina Miller Davis actually had a couple of forums on the same issue, and the response was great. And here we are today still talking about it, and dollars are getting ready to be spent. Contracts are getting ready to go out. Some contracts is going out to people that's not Black-owned businesses. I'm not going to say it's just us in it, but it's more to this thing here. And we're going to lose out all the way around if we don't do it right. And young people like yourself that wants to be into construction or whatever, what's the avenues for you?
Right. And when I read these articles that we see published in newspapers, like the challenge and the criterion, I'm trying to get a little more well versed in this. I'm not a newspaper type of person, but when I hear about it, it sounds like you said, it is deeper, right? These are meetings where they're invite only, limited to 2 members. And then other sides that are conflicting with the ideas the community is bringing forward are coming with a multitude of members. And so it's almost like we're creating environments for us ideas to be shut down. So I think more the question is like you said, how do we convey how we feel currently about the issues, and not just this issue, but let's take it broader. How do we convey what we want as a community when the politicians and the elected officials don't seem to listen to us? We got to recognize the political machine only works if we work, right? You can be in office, but look, if a plumber don't go to work and you don't got a shower, you're going to be at home stinky like the rest of us. So the question becomes, how do we as the people, if we're the power of this vehicle, if we're the engine, how do we control where this car goes better than we are right now, rather than just letting them steer where it goes and then being sad that we got there?
Well, you got to think about economics.
Oh,
you got a caller in.
I think we might have a caller. Oh, my bad. Before we even send it back, caller, you can join the conversation. 716-837-1112.
Yes.
Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. How's everybody?
Good morning.
Great.
We are good. How are you?
How you doing, legislator?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. The reason why I'm calling is I know you mentioned that 33 people have a grasp of what is happening because they're not attending the meetings, so they're not reading the newspapers, and they're not finding out what is going on. There are 3 choices for the 33. The first choice, not in order of preference, but the first one is leave it like it is. I mean, don't do anything, just, take care of the rustic railing and leave it like it is as a expressway in the middle of Martin Luther King Parkway. Or they can build tunnels. The tunnel would be leave it like it is, but put a tunnel over it so that those people between Sydney and Dodge Street won't see the extra cars running because they'll be covered by a covering or a tunnel. And they're going to plant trees and grass on top of that tunnel. That's the second choice. The third choice would be to fill it in the way it was prior to 1950. I mean, just take the dirt they took out, put some new dirt in, plant trees, and you won't see the expressway because between Dodge and Sydney, it won't be an expressway. It will be a parkway with the traffic that's already there within trees and cars. Now, people have said that what is probably going to happen because of the preference of the people in government is to build a tunnel. And those people who have a preference to fill it in, have not reconciled that it's the best way. But however, if it is, then we're asking for an environmental impact study.
Okay.
Impact study is what they didn't do, but they decided to cover it up. They didn't take a listing of how many people have illnesses, how many people have cancer, how many people have had COPD or respiratory issues, because that tunnel has spewed toxic carbon dioxide and waste since the 1940s when they built it. They have not done it. And so those of us who said fill it in, we're saying we can't just go from not filling it in to a tunnel without giving us the information. Because who's to say that it won't be worse when they put the tunnel, because the carbon dioxide is more concentrated because of the tunnel, and when it comes out at a steadier, more dangerous level. So we're saying, those of us who support the fill-in, we're saying don't be rushed to judgment. There's a rush for this. Let's do it right.
All right.
Because once we build that tunnel, we cannot undo it. So let's do the environmental impact statement. Let's see what the scientist has to say.
Thank you. We appreciate the information because that helps us again make a more informed decision as a community. I think what you said that I'm really focusing on is when we talked about going from unfilled in to filled in, right? There's been a lot of talks, and when you see the pros of it, that it's going to reconnect the community. But one thing I had talked to my mom is, do you think, right, community members, do you think if we haven't walked over there for this many years, are we suddenly going to have it be filled in and say, you know what, everybody meet in the middle, let's just all talk it out?
Crossover.
Or is it now just going to be a red line, right? Yes. Now do we just have a ghost divider where we don't really connect these sides?
Put trees and grass in there and think we're not going to go there and fellowship. You know what I'm saying? They will, no, it's just going to be just a fair through, just going to go across. No, we gonna fellowship. Anywhere there's some land or grass, we gonna fellowship. We gonna have, our parties or whatever going there. And they didn't have that in the plan as neither. They don't have park benches. They don't have a lot of things in place. They just want to do this on their own mindset and saying this is how we're gonna move forward. And so here we are, folks. We talking about the 33.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Continue to listen. Continue to read information out there and continue to get involved.
Also, one more question before we get off the air, and we gonna jump around on the Jim Anderson show because he be used to do that sometime. I just left a meeting with St. John's, and they're talking about the market that's going to be taking place in the Fruit Belt Coalition area, in that area, and there's some issues about that as well. We always saying we in the desert. And things are happening. Maybe they should have put a market or something up in that area. I remember saying that we should have put that there where Old Deaconess Hospital was at. Some of us was born there. It would have been a great place for a market to be placed up in that area. So we got to look at this thing for what we going to gain our community, because you're going to be closing down exits that leads to the Black community, and folks ain't paying attention to that. So you won't be able to get on and off. You're just gonna drive straight through and bypass the city, bypass the east side of Buffalo, and that's just taboo.
Absolutely. That's why we're supporting. That's why we're supporting.
Mom looking too.
The fill-in, because fill-in, they have to use a street such as Genesee. You have to use streets such as William Street, Clinton Street, Seneca to get from downtown to the outer area. And when they do that, they can come by a street that have new businesses that build up because people are coming through their area. Because if they're in a tunnel, you can't see them, they can't see you.
No.
They're not
But we're making an assumption.
They're not spending any money regarding the city of Buffalo. But if you
like
do
this.
that,
We have a
you slow down that traffic, they'll be able to spend that money. And I won't say this, I'm going to get off the air, that there's opportunity now for this community to get another supermarket. It's been talked about for years. That is the supermarket that the St. John's Church was going to build. And on Maple Street, I think it was, there's an opportunity to come again for the people to have that supermarket here, where we can't do it by sitting on the sidelines and being quiet.
Yes.
We got to get involved, because with that comes a youth opportunity, youth to be able to learn how to open a business.
Caller, we're about to speak on.
For a year.
We're about to speak on what you were just talking about. We appreciate
opportunity for us to get involved and
we have another caller.
Supermarket here in the city of Buffalo. And I hang up and listen to your show.
Thank you so much. But I think we're making some assumptions here when it comes to the actual space, when it does get filled in, because it's not like, as an engineer, I know that's a process and a project and a timeline. I don't know what the timeline is for this to be filled in, but we're making an assumption that that's still going to be our community when it gets filled in.
Well, you say it's not going. It is our community.
We say it's going to be our community when it gets filled in.
I guess a lot of communities were our communities, but when we think about, like we were talking about, intentional plans, strategic plans, a lot of those along the highway, weren't those all owned by people that
didn't look like us?
Well, first of all, you got to remember, back in those days, it was horses and carriages.
It
wasn't cars.
But when you look at other cities who want walkable cities, if you look at Elmwood, right, the west side of Elmwood, there, the changing and the demographic looks differently.
Well,
so we're making an assumption that if it gets filled in, that we are going to be still living there.
No, we are living there because we own those houses that's on Humboldt Parkway, and see, only thing that's going there is just grass and trees. It's no development is going on top of that.
Doesn't have to be development.
But I mean, either us is coming in the community together, we will be there because this is what we do. Yes, it's no different from us going to Martin Luther King Park. We don't own that. Olmsted owns that. And so now we deal with that every time when we do Pine Grill, we do it, taking it to the street, we do a Stop the Violence Coalition events. We go to places that has grassy areas and trees and things like that there, the fellowship to do things like there. It's going to work. If that happens on that level, we're not just going to be saying, let's cross over back to Woodline. That's nothing. It's not. Even our people and our young folks in our community don't even travel like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't even travel. They're basically driving in our community. It's not a lot of walking going on in our community like it used to be. But only people that's walking in our community now is the people that came here from abroad that's walking through neighborhoods and things like that there. The Black folks in our community don't do a lot of walking through places like that there because they think it's unsafe and things are not in place. So I'm saying it can work, but I just need more knowledge about it, or it can't work. It's one of the two. And you're going to have to take a side on it because guess what? New York State is getting ready to make a decision. And I will give you this as well. If you want to see how the plan works, go to Rochester. I went to Rochester when I was seeing this development happening. And they actually put housing up and things like that there that wasn't part of the plan, but they had investors that was buying into this thing here. We have no investors buying into it. And then when you say going down Genesee Street, going down Sycamore Street, guess what? Those are deserts. Juneteenth, I'm on the board for Juneteenth. Every year we go down Genesee Street. There's no economic development happening over there. We just walk down there in the parade, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And then we go to Martin Luther King Park, and that's it. It has not had any growth happening for us to see any buildings being eradicated or anything on that level. So when you say, okay, we can push them down them streets, yeah, they're going to go down those streets because they got to get home. And then when you got a snowstorm, God forbid that happened, because guess what? We all got stuck in snow on Genesee Street and Sycamore and them other areas. So it's going to make congestion for us, but it's going to bring out that new type of person.
I think for me, I'm looking at, before we get onto the market to St. John's, I think that for me, at least I understand, I'm listening to both sides, right? And I hear from one side, I hear what we have seen, but on the other side, let's look at my dad always says you can trust someone to consistently be consistent, right? They're going to be themselves.
Yeah.
And so on her side, I do understand though. Have we heard politicians telling the Black community to be proactive?
No.
Never heard it. Have we ever heard the politicians coming to the Black community giving an accurate census to what the needs are in the community? No. And so if this is the case, and we know they've been making moves, right? Things just don't, people don't just shift out of a community. It doesn't happen, right? Even when you look at the proliferation of segregation in Buffalo in general, it's been a ring thing. It's intentional. It's a process. So to her point, I do think that even if we don't hear it, it's sometimes important to put credence to it, because we've never heard it. They've never told us ahead of time.
Only on this station.
Only on WUFO. We never hear ahead of time. But we've never heard ahead of time. And so I think that if you ask yourself, okay, you run this area, right? Let's think of Humboldt Parkway, right? What group can I put in here that I think or associate in my mind is going to put the most into this community, right? It was written in legislation back in the day that our people, Black people, lowered the quality and value of a community. That was in legislation.
So you had organizations called the Build Organization. You had the model cities, things like that there. I don't know what's your age, but I can see those things taking place in the city of Buffalo. That's why you got Build Academy and places like that have growth on. We had people that was, like you said, doing the talk and walking the walk in the city of Buffalo at that time. Do we have those folks like we had back then? Not necessarily, because guess what? The dollar has outweighed the views of the activists or the persons that want to do great things in our community. And that's what we're facing with right now. We don't have the resources to carry this over. I went looking for a building this week because I had to move into another place because the place that we had, someone sold it. I can't find a storefront. I can't find a building or anything in the community. And the reason why is because it's been bought up already. So now
don't you think that's a telltale sign? Because I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yes.
We keep making the assumption that if Humboldt Parkway gets filled in, it's going to look like brown and Black people. And I don't know that I make that assumption.
It's going to be all kind of people.
Well, it is, but it's going to be people who don't mind walking. It's going to be people who making money. It's going to be people that when I started back into my own business 8.5 years ago, full time, and I'm talking to some people who don't look like me that traditionally bought in Clarence and Spalding Lake, who decided I'm selling my house and I'm revamping my house in such and such a neighborhood. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm talking about like my chiropractor who bought a house that's now worth probably way more than he expected, because we're looking at what we see. And I'm saying, may I suggest that we're thinking it's going to be our community, but I don't know that it is, because
it's going to change. It's going to change.
It's going to change. And so what I'm saying is we're talking about is going right back to the conversation last week. I feel like sometimes we're playing checkers and there's other people playing chess. And I think that if we're being, and I think that we would be remiss and very, it would feel like kind of aloof if we didn't consider for a moment that neighborhood as it's changing, we might be thinking we see one thing, but it would be crazy if we start to see that the whole demographic changes.
Oh, so let's go there. I get you. So you know what? You got to think back when it wasn't our neighborhood, first of all.
And this is
it was
what
the
I'm saying.
Germans, it was Jews, it was all them living in that area, right? In that area. And that same thing happened, and then they moved out to the suburbs.
Yes, they did.
And then they found out that the land was swamped all up, and they spent more money. Now they're moving back into the city of Buffalo, just like what you said. But they're living in these concrete jungles here. Now they want to live where some land might be at. And that's the best part of real estate that's getting ready to happen on your views and what you're saying right now. So I get that, but then it is our Black folks, do we invest? I believe the Badgers just bought a house on Humboldt, and they had red tape at their house. One of the siblings of the Badgers, and they came and talked at this event that we were having about the 33 and the effects of that. And then I had a young attorney that was there, said his family been there for 3 generations, and now they have emphysema and all the stuff happening with them in their mindset because of this expressway. So now here we go with other people saying, and I'll give you this piece right here. I can remember when they just did this movie here called The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know what? The city of Buffalo made almost $7 million for just that project.
I remember that. Do y'all remember when I took that
$7 million? And I was there working at, in that there, and they shut that whole place down. And you know what? And they made money off of it because it was the only type of design in New York State that had that way, that tunnel thing there. So they had an investment piece they just got out of it. It's an investment piece for people to come through that way. So I don't see it crumbling. Why is we trying to, go in this direction when it's been working? You know what I'm saying? Now you want to cover it up and put a turnway at best. And I believe best in Herman. You want to put a turnabout. We had turnabouts they don't work sometimes for some people.
They don't.
They
put on my city. They put on my town. They just got people confused.
Keep confused. And some of this stuff is coming out of that there, and then you taking away space from homes. You actually going to take some space away from homes in this project. And if they didn't come to these meetings and see that, they wouldn't know how deep it's getting ready to go. Then you got foundations is going to be affected, not just on Humboldt, but guess what? There's a whole system there called Cold Spring, and that is a water that's running underneath the ground. The Skajaqua is running under the ground there, so they're going to run into some water issues. They got to go deeper than what they plan to go, and so some of this stuff here, if we don't look at it the right way, where are they going to get the dirt from? First of all, where they going to get it from? The stadium that they just took up?
You got to come.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to commercial break. Sorry, I was just listening to the conversation like a viewer for a second. All right, we'll be right back after the break.
I thought they took the break. That's funny.
Yeah, I thought we already took the break. I think what I'm looking at is, I just think if we're not right, we look at it like, okay, we're saying if we can get our word through, but if we can't, right, if they just go ahead and do it, I think on her side, what I would advocate, right, and it's not even size, but what I would advocate to the listener is this, right, if we know that it's going to happen, right, we're planning for the best case scenario, but if it doesn't work, how much money are we willing to deny to keep those properties? That's, I think, more of what you're talking about, because it's fine right now, we all live there, but you come and throw $500,000 cash on the table and sit there, some people might be like, ooh, I'm really tempted to make this change.
There's this show called Billions. You ever heard of it?
Yes.
And I'm always amazed because people have a price.
All people have a price.
People have a price. And we say we don't, but that's because you haven't been faced in a situation where someone dangles something that you've never experienced before. And so I think the question for today, to get the show and people calling in is, so how do you take something that seems so far away and make it relevant today?
And it's so close. It's so close.
It's close to you as a person who understands. But how do you take the everyday person that right now they're thinking about how am I paying rent on December 1? So I'm getting evicted right before Christmas.
Highly competitive wages.
But you know what? This project, they are ready to go. It's already been approved. They're almost. The governor is all backing it. It's been approved. It's just red tape. It's just smoke screen that we're talking about it at the later stages in the game. They signed the line already. Yeah, it's already done.
So then that's where I have the question. Yeah. How do we get people that I know you're saying is close? Mm-hmm. But you read that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Right? We got the people that still believe the cheese is coming back.
Yeah.
That there's an option, and that's not what we're dealing with.
And that's so to answer more on that question. That's what I always have been asking, especially for our candidates, is We know it's important, but how do we prepare the community for change? We know what that process is. Going to meetings, right? Because we know what's happening, but we have people who are just disenfranchised.
It's the same
with the
people
news.
going to those meetings. This
Right.
was how do you engage
The regular person, the
new
average
generation that's willing to say, I want to be involved. How do you go? You have to go to bus state, the places.
So we are back, listeners. We are again having a conversation this week talking about overall the question is, what changes do we want to see in 2024? We were just discussing some of the changes we're going to see potentially on the 33 plan. We're also going to get to touch on a little later on the food desert and creating a market, the market that St. John's is working to get passed and all okay so we can have some different food sources in Buffalo. But going back to what we were talking about the 33 plan, we were talking a lot on just some speculations for how this is going to turn out and how this is going to look, right? We talked about the community is owned by us, but then when this project actually gets put down, right, because it is sounding like it's going to get pretty far, good chance it's going to get approved, right? There's a lot of political backing. And so we were asking, when it does come time for this to start coming in place, what's that number going to look like, right? If we're a homeowner on Humboldt, it's fine now, but what are some of these numbers that they're going to start to put out? And are we willing to stand against that? Are we willing to fight and say, no, this is our land, this is what we want? Or are we just going to secede to what the government tells us that they're going to do with our property anyway? So you guys can continue from where you guys left off or take it a different way as well.
My big question is, we tell people all the time they need to be proactive. Well, it seems like tonight, like we're at 11:59 right now. Like it's not proactive. It's like it's right there in front of us. But that's only if, and the analogy that's popping in my head is like night vision, right? You got people running around in the dark, and you got people who got them goggles on that you can see in the night, so they can see stuff differently. And I feel like a lot of us are running around in this dark, and we're busy with current issues like I got to pay my rent. I'm going to lose my job. I can't find a job. My kids struggling with mental health. They're dealing with the problem of today. And you're talking about something that even if it was 3 weeks from now, right now, this week becomes December 1. I'm about to get evicted. You know, I can't even pay my heat bill because I don't qualify for heat. Why am I worried about the 33?
Why am I worried about the 33?
And I think, like, we've seen what happens when people are willing to mobilize. And I'll give an example. I read a master's thesis. This is why I keep going back to the segregation of Buffalo. When Buffalo was first getting desegregated, and there was a war. I'm not going to say whether it was World War I or World War II. I don't remember, but it was a war. And they wanted to build a defensive headquarters for some of the black soldiers.
Yes.
How many people do you think that Cheektowaga and other surrounding suburbs were able to mobilize and get into one church to sign a petition to go against that? How many people do you think they were able to get into one church?
So when you talk about that, that's doing some networking. That happens a lot right now. We actually have we were planned up with Voice Buffalo. We did moves like that, actions, and you get all these people together from clergy from different, not our clergy churches, but those other churches. And they come together and they sign stuff and they get it passed through.
But I think you're talking about an actual.
I'm talking about an action event.
And it just happened. Yeah,
no, it happened years ago. How many people do you think they got? 10,000 people to sign a petition. That's the movement that we're talking about. Because if we're not prepared to move like that, we can't make change. How do we get the average person on board, the average Buffalonian, to understand how important and pressing this change is? Because like we said, this is the last hour and the last second.
So that's what I'm just saying to you when I just said to you how we make action moves and calling organizations to stand them across. Actually, over 2004, Shaw was a young man. We marched from the Broadway in Jefferson to City Hall because we had a homicide unit that was not doing the work in the community. We had all organizations coming together and we marched on City Hall. We actually put a stage up in front of City Hall and we voiced our opinions, and guess what? We made change. Rocco Dino must go. That was the campaign because he wasn't doing the work as a commissioner, but it was organizations that come together, even with the peacemakers. This is the birth of the peacemakers. Stop the Violence Coalition came up with an idea and it didn't work, and then we created the peacemakers. But we used clergy from other churches outside of our own melon that came together with petitions and took them to the mayor's office and said, this is what we want. And that came about because your vote matters. It's about that vote, and constituents, when they see that type of stuff, they be like, oh yeah, if I don't do this, I might not be in office next year.
Right. And we have a caller, but I want to say this one piece before we go to the caller. Here's what I'm saying. These events, these reactions, these demonstrations were in results of, right? These are reactions to homicides, reactions to foul play and malpractice. What we need to get to is a place where it doesn't take a murder for us to march on City Hall.
True.
Right? It shouldn't take, because with these types of things, what are we gonna tell them? That, okay, they filled it in, I'll take it out.
So,
right? We can't go back. We can't go back. We need to be proactive. We can't be reacting when things are happening. And so it's how do we prepare a city for change when disaster hasn't struck yet? How do we get people to pull out their umbrella?
It already has destructed already. And our callers on the line.
And I'm gonna let the caller go ahead.
You know what? It's already there, brother. Look, the revolution will not be televised. Okay, and you definitely televising right now on the radio. And I feel you.
Right. Caller, if you could, caller, we have you on the air now.
Yeah, good hearing you have the conversation. The conversation needs to continue. And it's not so much that we need a homicide to have a march. We shouldn't need a homicide to get City Hall and politicians to listen. That's the part of it. They should be able to listen without having to lose lives to get that to happen. But my question about the 33, whether you choose choice A, B, or C, none of those happen instantly, magically. There's a process and a time frame for doing any of that. So what happens to the community while that is happening? I heard that it's going to be till 2030 before whatever project is done. So that means 6-7 years of construction, of blasting, of traffic rerouting. What's the process for getting to either choice A, B, or C, and how will those choices impact the community? That's my question.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think this is the information that, like we said, is so important for us to get to these meetings for, right? I don't know, Mr. Holman, do you have an answer to that? But I don't know if I have an answer, but these are the questions we need to be bringing to the forefront. But like I'm saying, we cannot wait until we should have been asking these questions months ago, Years ago. We should have been asking these questions months ago. And I think it's a valid question to bring up now. But like I'm saying, I think that question can be answered, but whether that question is answered or not, plans are happening. So I think if we only have X amount of time, yes, that's important. But I think if we only have X amount of time, we need to focus on what we can focus on. What we need to focus on is getting us to the meetings, because if we can get them to stop with this project, we don't need to answer that question. It won't happen.
But I want to say one other thing. So that's an interesting year, 2030.
Wow.
Because by 2030, the marketplace, the demographic will be more millennials and Gen Zs than any other generation. Now, the interesting part about that is we're boomers and Xers and traditionalists. We all want to plan. A millennia person or a Gen Z person will blow up the plan halfway through. How do I know? Look at this. We just need to get enough millennials and Gen Z people educated on their power and their authority, because they will make a move. Like they will do stuff differently and try to be, the thing might be signed, but they will be unapologetically. And I think you could speak to this more than anyone. Like,
now, what generation is he?
He's Gen Z.
Okay,
and Gen Z is
you gotta let them know out there.
Gen Z is under 23. I think is the number. 23. Under 23 is Gen Z, and then the millennials. We're Generation X is me. I'm 51.
I'm 59.
So you're on the crust.
What
Gen X?
Gen X,
right? And so what I'm saying to you is, that's my job, is to know this stuff. The marketplace, 2030. And leaders are not paying attention to it, and owners aren't paying attention to it, community leaders aren't paying attention to it. But 2030, the marketplace will be totally different.
That sparked you up, because I see.
Because I'm just saying, y'all act like the plan might not be the plan, because they will blow up the plan.
Well, you say A, B, and C plan, right? And then that's real clear, brother Kamal. When you talk about the plan A, B, and C. They already at A, B, and C right now. Either take A or take B or C or lose it all. And that is the plan, brother Kamal. And what you said was so true. So here we are, folks. It's gonna happen either one way or the other. Do we have enough momentum? Let me say that right now to stop it.
Well, why can't we do the 10,000? What would it take to get to 10,000?
That's all I'm asking. That's what I've been asking this for, whether it's political. How do we mobilize or prepare ourselves for change? And I think, okay, let's load to what I can answer, right? Because I can't answer just people. What I can answer young people is you got to make it relevant. You got to make it relevant. Like we said, we got to figure out a way to make this 2030 issue be a 2023.
So the call out. We need a call out.
We need a call out, and we also need a clear plan a clear plan, simple plan for how to support. I think it's another mistake.
Is it a plan or a vision? I think
it's a plan because we make a mistake. We make a mistake and we give people too much. Like I said, if activism was easy, right? Let's walk through this thought process again one more time. Do you really think someone's gonna get off a 9 to 5? Like you said, Mom, my rent's due on December 1st. You think I'm gonna get out of 9 to 5 and I'm about to go do research on the 33 project? No, what you say is this: I don't need you to know nothing else. Come to this location on this day and sign this paper.
Or
and we don't, because we're right now it's too ambiguous. When we say we want to help, like we just said, it's going to meetings, it's being updated, it's having conversations. That's too much. We just need you to bring one thing to the table. So how can we explain a simple plan that's connected to our heart space? Whether it's sign this petition for our city to be saved. That's a simple message, right? I don't got to read too much. I don't got to come to this place and sign this paper.
But I also think you need to connect it to a leader, because this reminds me of the Obama campaign, right? Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming because he was activating the young people, right? So I feel like it's a concept, but you need a face connected to that concept.
So when you say a face, I think you need organizational faces, not just the one face, because one face gets us in trouble a lot. And I experienced this a lot. So his action is my thing is to go to the colleges, put the call out, and see how we can make this work. You can rally right in front of this place right here and then walk to City Hall. You don't have to do the whole 2-mile walk. It's so close there. And the action has to go out in that direction in order for it to work. You don't have to go far. You got to go where the beacon is at. And right here at 96.5, this is where the beacon is at for us to go that way. It's not Sheila. It's just the station as a point to say they make the call out, and now the call out goes out, and then now we get schools involved, we get youth involved, we get seniors involved. Say we're gonna march on City Hall, and then from there, then now that stuff goes over. We get petitions made out. You got to have some type of signature dropping going on, so that stuff goes into the offices that are being said, listen, either go for this or not. So now you got two plans of action going right now. You got ones that's against it and ones that are for it. And so whatever one you're going to do here, you have to make sure you're doing it in the right direction.
And I think it doesn't, I'd push back. I say it isn't two sides. The side that we should all be on is that we just want more information.
There we go.
It's not even about whether I don't know enough to be with it or not for it. What we need to do is march and say, looking at what was told to me by the people in the newspaper, if these meetings are invite only, if these meetings are being positioned in a way where it's a majority fighting the minority and the minority is representing us, right? That's not fair. That's not fair if it's 10 on 2, if it's 10 on 3. And so what we need to do is say, we're mobilizing, we're doing it simply, come to this location on this date to walk to this place to sign this signature. So just come here. Don't even worry about it. Just come here. And then we need to ask for one thing, is more information. Because it's not about separate. When we separate in the sides, now it's like, oh, I'm not going to that. I'm not with them. Well, you are if we just want more information, because that's what we want.
Right. But the thing is, I know what you're saying about organizations and it could have a downfall, but the research supports as a change management. If you look at Cotter, if you look at ProSci, experts on change management, and they share with you that 70% of successful change happens when you have a sponsor, a leader who is leading the charge and supports it and provides the things that the people need in order to rally and connect with that. So even though I know it could be a shortcoming because it's a person, that's why I said it can't be WUFO. It would have to be Sheila. Or if not Sheila, some leader associated with this particular news station in order to really get people to rally around, because concepts are too hard. I mean, think about the Jim Jones, all these negative or positive things that they get groups of people to go a certain direction. It has to be a figurehead that people associate with the change that they are connected to.
But when you do that, sometimes they play political suicide with their organizations, political suicide with their businesses, things like that happen. And that's the danger of that. What side do you take? That's what I was just saying here. So if there is a spokesperson, we know that person is either against it or for it,
right?
In that direction, so they don't lose their credibility or their power to connect with corporate America or whatever. That just happened. That just happened with my organization. I'll be clear with ARP funding. It just came across the board. I get a text saying that we didn't qualify. We've been doing this for 20 years. City of Buffalo, taking care of homicide families and things like that there, and we don't qualify. And I said it might have been a slap on the wrist because I ran for office, or some of that stuff might come to play, because the powers that be in certain places, either on the Democratic, might be Republican, whatever, that sits in those offices that's making a decision. This is what's just happening with this 33 project. You have people that's sitting in there that have the best interest of a certain group that's saying this is what we're going to push to these people and they're going to accept it. And that's what we got to stop doing. We cannot be that group. We need the young folks coming aboard now that look like you with the long hair and coming out there regular. You know what? And come out there and give it to them, because y'all voices is more powerful than mine. See what I'm saying? Because I can stand back and be a spokesperson, but when they hear it from the youth and y'all got 30,000 people behind you, that movement is greater. You know what I'm saying? It happened with our George Floyd's and all that stuff there that we forgot about. Now we ain't even protesting about Black Lives Matter and things like that there. Buffalo is a place that when things happen, it happen for a second and then we go dormant. And so this project right now is the same thing that just happened to us right now. We went dormant on it, and now we at the end of the road, and here it is, and we trying to figure this plan out. We should have been doing this since day one when it came across the table and saying, look, and having signage out there saying either I'm against it or I'm for it. And then now we can have some accountability or some conversation like we have it on this show, on the Jim Anderson show. And that's the key part about it right now.
Definitely. I think when you guys talk about mobilizing young people and some of the implications that these decisions have on our careers long term, I think another piece that I'll be amiss to just say without is we need to all believe that this is going to work and that other people are going to do it with us. Right. I don't want to get out there trying to march City Hall and I was me and a band of friends and there's 6 of us walking to City Hall. We look like an appointment, man. We didn't look like this ain't no protest. This is an appointment. We can all fit in the office, right? We need to believe, because the reason that they're able to strong arm organizations because you don't support the community. Like I said, America doesn't run without the common man. It doesn't. But when we let them make decisions for us and we're not employed to really ask those questions instead of just saying like, oh, why can they get a grant? The same way we march for any other political demonstration. If we marched on City Hall for us to have that grant for Buffalo people, they would have it, right? Because we allow that to happen. And so what we need to is be in a mindset that this is going to work and that we are all going to come out here and commit to it. So we don't let anybody fall behind. You can only let someone fall behind when we're not holding each other.
But you said something so clear. You said if you went with 6 people, will it work? Yeah, well, it will work, because I'll give you Al Sharpton. Before he became National Action Network, he was one man on the stoop in New York City doing this thing, and now look at his organization now. So sometimes it takes a smaller group to get what you want done, and then the momentum shifts, and then it builds up and builds. It might not take one time to march on City Hall, because guess what? The decision is not made here at City Hall. The decision is made in Albany. See what I'm saying? Albany is the connection. So when you lobby, like I have been doing, going to Albany on Tuesdays, you can go to any office in Albany and their doors are open, and then you can get on the floor with Crystal People Stokes and all them there. You have to go to Albany. You have to go to Albany right now. Our only leverage right now is Albany. To have buses loaded up from Buffalo going to Albany and going out there and saying, look, we ain't going for this, because we know the buck stops at City Hall. But when you go to Albany, now that power is there, because that's where all our laws are made. That's where the decision came out of. It didn't come out of Buffalo. It came out of Albany. You know what I'm saying? Department of Transportation went further that into, D.C. and all that there. But Albany is the reason who we are.
No, I know the show is wrapping up, but I think we talked about a lot today. We came on talking about just what changes do we want to see in general, and then we kind of specified into the 33 plan specifically. I know we were also supposed to touch on a little bit on just the St. John's market, and some of that market and kind of combating that food desert. But I think whether it's St. John's, whether it's the 33 plan or whatever, until we answer the question of how do we mobilize, especially young people, and prepare them and whet their appetite for change and what that process requires, I think we're always going to be playing catch up. And like we said, it's just always going to be difficult when we're trying to make a plan at 11:59, the final hour. So I think that we just have to be cognizant. We have to be aware. And I think we have to make simpler instructions that are closer to the heart space of the listeners. Stop talking about the 33 plan and talk about it like this. If you want money, I want money. I want money. You got me right there. If you want money, come to this place, because we're fighting to make sure that the money they're putting towards other things is the same effort they're going to put towards yourself. You don't come with just 33 plan. That's too broad. So I think if you specify our message, hit the heart space of the youth and of the average person in Buffalo, we can make a change, but it's going to be a process. We got to be willing to walk that journey.
AI is doing it. So I know the overseer is going to be coming here from St. John's. Chapman is going to be coming here on the Jim Anderson show. I think that's scheduled down the line. So when he gets here, we can talk about the market as well. It's going to be happening, but we're going to have to rally on that as well, because 13 years of waiting for a market to be built, this is way before 514. And now they're trying to get it, approved, and the common council is playing these games. So we're going to get ready to prepare for that so we can put young people in position there. We wanted kids from the age of 8 to 13 to have LLCs. Come on, man. We can do that. And under the apprenticeship of that program, we can be doing great things. So the market is not just the market. It's going to be some avenues in there to invest to make the new future, the guys that look like you, to come and take their places. So now they'll be calling you an OG. And you only, but how old are you now?
I'm 19.
See, 19. So when you get to 25, they be calling you an OG. And you understand what I'm talking about. But the market in the fruit belt is needed. It's been needed for a long time. Just met with overseer. So in that direction, we want to go there. Look out for some numbers that's going to be coming to you soon about how you can contact City Hall and say, approve it across the board, and then let's move forward. Because we're going to lose out again on another piece. Deserts are here.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to say as we
No,
close out?
just thank you, Jim, for trusting us again. Sheila, thank you again, and WUFO family and the DJ Shab. We love you for being the best DJ, and we appreciate all of that. So that's all I have.
Okay, and as we close out, looking towards some next weeks, like we said, we got Overseer Chapman coming in. I'm not gonna lie, listen, I thought I had a little less time than we did. Normally we'd be running out of here. We got a little bit of time, so maybe we can ask the question that we started with and ask you, Mr.
Yes,
Holman.
sir.
What changes do you want to see in the city for 2024?
Well, I just want to see us just love each other. That's it. That's the change I want to see.
Oh, he's saying we have more time.
That
is
we rolling. I guess the show is doing great because we got more time. I really want to see partnerships in our city. I want to see growth on Genesee Street and Broadway and those areas that we are in mostly in our community. I want to see a connection here. I want to see this heritage place grow down with Sheila and the rest of the stuff that's going on right here. Get ready for Christmas and all that there, and just adopt a family right now. Whether you believe in that Christmas or not, but just adopt a family and knock on their door and see what they need. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. So if you are on Facebook and your favorite organization is there, usually that is a way to do Giving Tuesday. So you want to make sure that those places that you're giving are actual 501c3 so you can get your tax credit if that's important to you. If that's not important to you, I would say connect and give big, because if you have a need, you should sow a seed. That's what I believe.
And if you want to sow a good seed, my wallet is open 24/7. But I will let y'all. We'll give y'all a little change back. It was a great show this week, and we'll be back next week with Overseer Chapman.
Thank you.
Thank you.